In a world of fractured stories, timelines buried, and truths erased, one project dares to ask the question, what if everything you thought you knew about history was wrong? This is GTR, Genesis, Timeline and Roots. A 5,025-year simulated walkthrough tracing a melanated Adam back to 4000 BC. Over the last decade, new revelations confirm a black origin for humanity, from European vaults to tribal memory, Babylon to Britain. This is not just history, this is a challenge, a simulation, a movement. Meet the man behind GTR, Dr. Wilton MacDonald II, Caymanian, British, Jamaican, haplogroup E and stateless for 26 years. Now a global explorer, 119 countries and counting. A hedge fund lawyer, a UK chartered accountant, a seeker of the lost archives of our people. But the question remains, if all black people came out of Africa, does that make us only African? Or are we also European, Scottish, Native American, Jacobite Hebrew, Asian? GTR exists to answer that question. You've felt it your entire life, that there's something wrong with the world. A splinter in your mind. That splinter has brought you here, to GTR. Whites can't trace their roots before the 1800s. Where's ours? Where are the tribes? The languages, the kings, the queens, the true Hebrews? Where did the giants go? Where are the Neanderthals? Angels, aliens? Why do we speak in so many tongues? Was Babel just a myth? A memory? History has holes. Hollywood has lied. The system was never made for us to remember. Only 5 to 8% of people today are white. And what about the 1800 stories and postcards of the cabbage babies? But nearly all history books center their story. That doesn't add up. Atlantis, lost cities, vanished civilizations, or were they erased? Try GTR. Take the red pill and awaken to the truth of your ancestors. Or take the blue pill and keep dreaming a fantasy. GTR. A simulated walkthrough of Black Hebrew history and eschatology. This is the beginning of remembering.
Welcome. We have another episode, 23, on GTR, Genesis, Timeline and Roots. We are operating live. I'm from Poland now. I'm operating from Poland. We have my brother, Andrew, who is in Uganda. And I have my other brother and journalist, David Wekesa, and he is in Kenya. So thank you, gentlemen, for joining. This is, again, GTR episode 23. In this episode, we would like to have a full and frank conversation, a Pan-African conversation, even going as far as saying a neo-Pan-African conversation, not to be confused with neo-colonialism, because I don't even buy it. In light of GTR, the things that we've uncovered, like again, this painting and other things that shows that Europe was black, we have to coin our own expression. We have to take back this power that has been given. Neo-Pan-Africanism. Neo-Pan-Africanism is Pan-Africanism, but recognizes that we don't have the full story. We don't have the full story about Europe just 200 years ago. We don't have the full story about Africa and why we speak so many European languages like French being dominant. We don't have the full story as we have many women clothed in burqas, clothed in attire fitting of a good, strong Muslim woman. And that's the choice made. That's the religion. But when you look at the prior episode, Reverend Mapunga, who I have the most respect for, being a scholar, a former Adventist pastor, a custom tribal traditional leader, spiritual leader with so much knowledge, he told everyone, the audience, in episode 22, that in every single African country, not just Ethiopia, in every single one, including South Africa, we have very deep Jewish roots in the Shabbat, the ordinances, the practices, trumpets. He went into detail to describe that it's embedded, deep rooted in the fabric of Africa. So we embracing neo-Pan-Africanism, again, not to be confused with neo-colonialism. What are we teaching our kids? What are we researching? We have a duty by God to correct the paths and the mistakes that are made. And I have this passion within me. Yes, I'm a lawyer, I'm a barrister, I do hedge funds, but I have been given this responsibility, I feel, in a show called GTR, Genesis Timeline Roots, in order to correct some of these falsities and paths that we have taken to say, describe ourselves, describe Africa in the context of the global, of the planet and of the globe, given that Europe was black, we may be living in the wrong year, maybe even the wrong century, 11th versus 21st. We are following and subscribing to religions. In the case of Latter-day Saints, Mormonism. In the case of Islam, again, I have no problem with other religions. I am a Jewish, Judeo-Christian Seventh-day Adventist. I follow the Shabbat and I follow the dietary laws, and I am confident with my own practice. But it's what are the roots of those religions? Is it going back to Judaism? Is it taking us back? So I just want to open the floor and welcome you, gentlemen. You are journalists, you're scholars, and whoever wants to go next, just tell me, because right now we're faced with this conference. I just returned from Burkina Faso. In the Western Africa, the Sahel, France is given the boot. We do know France controls, to this day, 11 countries, 11 currencies. And now that Europe is weakening, as prophesied, America is weakening, as prophesied, there is that effort. We have to come and recolonize. I don't know what that means, because the colonizers were Black people who come to recolonize Africa. So we need to take back more, extract more from Africa. And so Macron is running in the streets. It's really comical. He is saying that he is a Pan-Africanist. And this is some of what he is actually saying about things, about who he is and what he is and what he's doing. And that's laughable. So I just wanted to throw the floor open. Anyone who wants to speak and to comment about what's going on in Kenya in light of the French conference accommodating Macron, and what's next for Africa.
Thank you so much, gentlemen. I'm privileged this evening to be in your midst and sharing with you a pot of wisdom and learning some 2 or 3 aspects or other insights from your side. I can see Mr. Andrew is in his African attires. I love that, Mr. Andrew. Yeah, that's nice, man. That's nice. That's the real definition of Pan-Africanism.
There is also a delegation of the Kenyan Pan-African members who arrived in Kampala yesterday. I have been in meetings with them. we are actually might even be coming with them to Kenya because we want to, first of all, disassociate Pan-Africanism from the stupidity of Macron that is trying to implant in Kenya. Yesterday, I met Alfred Turu, who is the chairperson of the Pan-African Congress in Kenya. You can see his business card is here. I'm still with him. I'm still with them there. They came as a delegation. We are still looking for ways of responding to Macron's madness in the most strongest terms that he will understand. You know, trying to define Pan-Africanism in his own context of coming to reconquer, to decolonize East Africa, having been taken from Kenya, I mean from Sahel region, and now he's finding solace in East Africa and particularly in Kenya. That needs a very concerted push, because we also realize that William Ruto in our South African region is becoming the convener of such people. William Ruto is the man who was approached by America when they wanted to send students from Kenya to go and die in Haiti. They didn't come to Uganda. They didn't come to Tanzania. They found solace in Kenya. They didn't go to Rwanda. When America needed to put up a satellite for their NATO in East African region, they didn't go to any other country because they knew they would not accept. They came to Kenya, Ruto. So Ruto has become a dealer of some sort. Yet, at the very onset when he was taking power, he said, I am a hustler. I am a poor boy. I come from poverty. I know how poverty finds people because I've come from there. Now, a few years into the power, he is the exact opposite. So we are not sleeping. And in our Pan-Africanism, you know that our motto is that we first talk peace. And when you fail to understand peace, what is the opposite of peace? So we give you what you deserve. What you deserve is what you get. So I am sorry to interject in your conversation because this is your time to speak. I just wanted to let you know that we are not sleeping. We are watching. We are watching Ruto. We are watching him very closely. We are watching what he's doing. He's selling East Africa. We are watching him. Those Kenyans are here in Kampala. Next week I will be in Kenya. We are going to mobilize.
Maybe I need to ask you gentlemen to introduce yourselves, because I know David has been on the GTR show once, and then Andrew, we have shared and aired a part of the clip, but I need a formal intro. I will just give you guys an opportunity to introduce yourselves to the Caribbean and the wider Cayman Islands audience.
My name is Andrew Irumba. I am the founding speaker and chairman of a Pan-African organization called the Pan-African Pyramid. It's a global network, but it's headquartered in Kampala. I am in Kampala right now. And a few months ago, I was with my elder brother, Prince, in Burkina Faso. I was with him with Maponga and Dr. Rikana Chombori when we were organizing the ADI, when you brought over 70,000 diasporans to get rights to live in Burkina Faso. I joined that conversation. I joined the movement. So I was with Prince Wilton, with Prince Wilton. I was with him in Burkina Faso, but I have also hosted him severally on our show, and I'm glad that this time it's him hosting me. So that's who I am. I am an investigative journalist, Comrade David. I'm like you. And I want to tell you that 2 years ago I was in Nairobi to speak to journalists. They took me around, they toured me, the Parliament of Kenya, and so on. So in Kenya, I have also roots. And when I come, I think I will look for you so that beyond the Pan-Africans, we can also talk journalism, since you're also a journalist. So I am a journalist. I run online newspapers called The Spy Uganda and Detective UG, and then also our YouTube channel, The Pan-African Pyramid. And you can even, after the show, you can go right ahead and check them out. They're online. The Spy Uganda, Detective UG, Pan-African Pyramid. There is a YouTube channel and a website.
Thank you, Andrew. So, David, your turn. I know you've done it once before, but please and talk about the projects that you are working with me on, like the one that was looking at the discrimination, the racial discrimination throughout the world. Because we know that we spoke before about our Pan-African conversations about the colonial leaders, the whites that came even to Kenya, and we got sort of reversed back up into South Africa because a lot of the records are not there. They talk about that they came as frontier people. They came as basically cowboys. No really Dutch roots. No roots beyond 100 years. The books made it clear there's just missing gaps in the history and ancestry of the whites, because it's supposed to tell the story. You have this colonial thinking and mindset that you had all these bunch of guards and people toting Bibles and sticks to force you must speak English, you must speak French. Well, if you can't find those people, we're chasing ghosts. We're actually chasing ghosts when we talk about that way of our colonial masters. We're talking the boogeyman, someone who's not there, who was brought, again, as a cabbage baby, brought to these places as some visitor, and that brought in the last 150, 200 years. So the project that I was talking to you about, those countries that have the worst records of racism, and surprisingly, I love math, I love stats. There's a correlation between those countries that had the worst records of discrimination on the planet. USA, I mean, they were castrating, lynching, KKK, burning crosses, awful record. You have USA, we have South Africa, we have Australia, we have Argentina. And think about those countries. Think about those records. And we have discrimination in other countries as well. The expulsion of the Jews. And I am doing that piece, and I welcome your support on it, because when people talk about the expulsion of the Jews today don't even make up 1% of the planet. And when God said to Jacob, to Israel, whose name became Israel, you will have seeds, your seeds will be like the sands of the sea. That doesn't sound like sands of the sea. We don't know. Made black in the image of God, the planet being black, as these brothers tell us on paintings just 300 years ago. When we talk about the expulsion of the Jews, the scattering of the Jews, these were black people that were expelled from wherever, Norway or the other countries, Bolivia. And when I have a list of those countries that had the racial discrimination. So you don't get twisted, we have to remain focused that when it talked about the expulsion of the Jews, and Mapunga was right, we have an African continent that has as a bedrock, solid bedrock Jewish roots. And we're talking about deep Jewish roots. No talk of Muhammad, because again, supposedly he's in the 6th and 7th century. But if the 6th or 7th century didn't exist, because we had 500s becoming 1500s, we have a problem. As they say, Houston, we have a problem. Because if the 500s became 1500s, a lot of the history that they tell us, be it Joseph Smith, but that was probably 1800s. But when you talk about the Islamic faith, that kind of counter and replaced, it's like a substitute for Judaism, especially in Africa. And we just accept it. We just take it and say, well, yes, that's all we know. Roots Kunta Kinte was born, presented to his father, Allah be praised. How about Jehovah? How about Jehovah be praised? I'd love to hear about Jehovah. And so We've been given a narrative. We've been given a script. So now we have to kick the tires and go back and test the waters. When it talked about Jews being expelled, what Jews? What color were they? When it talked about racial discrimination, and there's a correlation. The correlation is this: the countries that had the worst records of discrimination were the biggest harbors of those, call it, cabbage babies. And I can do the math, I can do the regression analysis, I can do the correlation analysis. The biggest depots, a lot of whites went to America. They cleared through Ellis Island. They did not come fearing religious persecution. Who were the persecutors? Who were the people who were, endangering them, causing them problems, causing the travel? They just showed up. 80% of all migrants to the U.S. came through one place, Ellis Island in New York. In one place. And then for South Africa, they didn't come in the 1600s. They would come and dropped off somewhere in the 1800s in cages. Again, in cages. We have to know our truth and our history. And then Australia, same thing. In cages, sent off to Australia. And the locals were destroyed. Even today, they're on some reservations. As for the local Black natives. Argentina, surprisingly, the most white South American place. I visited, I went there, I traveled. And a lot of the people would say, well, 100 years ago, the population was different. In fact, they had laws in place to promote the whitening or lightening of the population, those who would migrate. They had laws in place, just like Cuba had some laws, that if you were white, you would have better job opportunities, you'd have better economic prospects. You had these racist laws that would promote you as a white person living in Argentina, living in Cuba. And you see those places do have, not say Cuba is diverse, and I've been to Cuba too, but diverse. You have Black people, brown, you have the white. But then Argentina is predominantly white. So the places that, again, had the worst human rights discrimination against Blacks, let's call it what it is, Blacks, not just to call it a Jewish label, because we don't know if there were Black Jews or today, whatever kind of call it Jews there are, but then Black Jews that were displaced. The worst countries would be USA, South Africa, Australia, and Argentina. And we're going to tackle the list. But I really want for you to chip in now, David, and just again reintroduce yourself to the Kenyan audience.
My name is David Wekesa, student at KCA University, pursuing a bachelor's degree in history and Kiswahili, but I'm attached to journalism. Currently, I'm also doing a project called Today in History, as you can see on the background, though I don't know if it's me alone seeing it upside down. David the Historian, that's my YouTube channel. I do create history content, and I've been doing it since the beginning of the year. Together with Chief Prince Dr. Wilton McDonald, we have been working on two projects. The first project was about the smart currency, talking about now the Bitcoin, and try to integrate the El Salvador system of economy in the African situation, trying to redeem our economic structure in Africa. And we did it examining the Burkina way and the Central Africa way, in trying to integrate the system that Nayib Bukele, the president of the president of El Salvador, he has been doing since 2021, and it was really good. And the second project was about the garbage babies from South Africa, and the first Europeans who landed in Kenya since late 1880s, from 1880s. And we find out that a lot of these white people don't have their originality. You cannot trace their originality beyond South Africa. That means they just found themselves in South Africa, and they moved in Kenya the beginning of late 1800s to early 1900s, and so that's what we have been doing with the Chief Prince Dr. Wilton, and I appreciate him for those for the opportunity. Yeah. Now, coming to the conversation today, we are in a state of trying to redeem someone, and the someone we are trying to redeem as East Africa is Macron. Remember that Macron is being refused, being denied from West Africa, and is using now Kenya and calling it the African Summit in the name of trying to come and tarnish the name of him. Is tarnish the name, I mean, is trying to portray himself as a good guy, even going in a morning run with our legend Eliud Kipchoge, trying to integrate in us, trying to feel, trying to be empathetic with us. But in real sense, if you understand the history of France, you will know that there's a president between was called Jacques Chirac. The president between he ruled France between 2007 thereabout, 2007, and he said, France cannot survive without her colonies. France cannot survive without her colonies, and that's the reason why France has been operating in West Africa, and that's the region where a lot of our colonies exist. And now the fact that France is being chased away by the revolutionaries like Traore of Burkina, the president of Mali, the president of Niger, they're trying to chase them away, the France regime. And now France is trying to look for an alternative way. How are we going to survive? Because we don't have what it takes for us to continue being a superpower country. So let us find another way where we are going to extract, where we are going to steal from these precious people who are blessed with everything that this world needs for you to be in a place of controlling power, for you to be in a table of decision makers of the globe. And that's why Macron is here. And the other reason why Macron is here, I can say, Mr. Andrew can confirm this, that Uganda realized that they have oil. And the same time, Kenya, recently, we realized that we have oil. And that's another way of coming close to us, trying to create a long-term relationship so that as that time comes, France will be in a position to do what it does best, stealing. You see, trying to make a relationship, but have a long-term interests. Leave alone the development, leave alone the summit, leave alone the economic regime and everything that is here to bargain with Ruto in the name of Africa. Leave alone that. Focus on the interest, because he has no friends. Currently, he has no friends in Africa. And I'm very much disappointed that my own president, Dr. William Ruto, is now a puppet. I will call him a prostitute diplomat. Because you can see he has been engaging in very nasty diplomatic movements. Focus on, look the situation of the situation that was in Haiti. He was used to go and fight the war that he don't understand. You see? Look at now the situation in East Africa. He's being used to welcome the France in the region where they were not existing, trying to create a conversation, trying to create a relationship that does not benefit any African in whatsoever. Because their name of they're bringing the name of redeeming Africa, redeeming what, but in real sense we understand. Even I'm talking this because look at the oil petrol stations and the pipelines that the France is the one controlling the Total. I'm sure Prince Wilton, the time you were in Kenya, you once fueled, or rather you were dropped in a petrol station, and you will see the Total. The Total is a French company controlling the pipelines, the oil pipelines, both in Uganda, Kenya, Mozambique. You see, so this is not the situation of us. We should not be celebrating this relationship, or rather, we should cursing it, and we should not be supporting it in whatsoever, because it's a long-term interest of trying to come and colonize Africa in another way. Because look at the British also. They're doing something that I don't know if you noticed, but Mozambique and Rwanda, they were not the British colonies back in the colonization period, but currently they are in the Commonwealth organization. You see, this is another way of trying to take, or rather trying to take control of African countries. Even though we did not colonize them, we have to take and keep them accountable on our development as a country.
Thank you, David, for sharing this. And we have to determine as a whole 6 region. I can speak as an African, as a Nigerian, as a Burkina resident. I can speak as a Pan-Africanist. I can speak as a European because of the Black Scottish roots. And I can speak on a number of levels as a Hebrew, haplogroup E. And so when you mention about the extraction, it's not just the raw materials. Look at the infrastructure, such as the oil and petrol companies. You mentioned Total. Look at Orange. They make, even in Burkina, they make easily $1 billion a week. They have the Orange money. You have the Orange for telephone service, internet. So a lot of it is tied into the economy, and then the control over the currency, and having the control over their currency. That touches every single industry. It doesn't matter what you're doing. You can be handling bananas, you can be handling anything, cotton, whatever you're handling. And that's why with Burkina, they're good that they're taking and restructuring some of these industries, not to shake things up for investors. Investors come, but knowing that there will be a system in place, like for cotton through Sofitex, through the gold is Sonaspe. You have these regulators in place now that they will help to streamline and regulate that industry to stop the exploitation. Because people were getting massive discounts on gold. And I went there, was there a week and a half ago, and it made clear you cannot get these crazy discounts, because the discounts that you're getting will essentially rob the locals from the true money that they should go to them for their gold. So people are looking for 15, 20% plus discounts. And what it made clear to us, you can get gold, but it's going to be closer or at the London prices, and you're going to pay those prices for it. So we could see that there's been a take back. I mean, France is doing with all these companies, all these extractions, all of the uranium that they also were taking out and selling huge profit margins. This is about not colonization. Because colonization, to me, when I was growing up as a boy, would suggest a bartering in exchange. We are here knowledge and sophistication and infrastructure and technology, and you're here. So we're coming in to share our knowledge, our resources, our know-how. And for that, then we're going to help you develop, help you build, but then we're going to take as a payment, because you don't have cash, we'll take your resources. I say take, because paying cents and pennies on the dollar for resources. It's a giveaway. And that's been the case for 100 plus years. But when you flip the script and you see that this indeed is Europe, when you see that our African brothers and sisters designed all these places that you came from, then that changes that narrative. Then where's the equity? If Africa essentially built up and developed Europe, the places that you came from, all the technologies that was just found and stolen, then you're a thief. I'm sorry, but you're a thief, because normally in a good transaction, any transaction contract, there's a give and take. We are coming in at here and you're down here, and this is what we're doing for you. But if the people down here who are also up here, where is your value? Where is the equity? Where is the contribution? Where's, as I say, where's the consideration? Legally, it's a legal term. Where is the consideration? You showing up? So I hate the term about colonizer. I don't like it, even if they attach the label neo-colonizer, modern day colonizers. It did not add any value. The Berlin Conference and those agreements were only meant to extract, without giving credit to Africa for its resources, without giving credit to the history of Africa, that Africa built the world as we know it. In the Americas, built up Europe, the sons and daughters of Africa did. So if you come to Africa, you might as well come on your knees and bow and respect, because you're bowing to your grandfathers. You're back. And this is the mindset we have to send to the youth, to the people, that when people come off the plane or the boat, they're coming to show respect to their grandfathers, to their grandmothers, to the people that gave the planet, the world, everything. Because it's those, not Moors. Again, I made the expression. I said, you don't go to Brazil saying, I'm in Brazil, give me some Brazil nuts. They laugh at you and say, are you crazy? You are in Brazil, so they're just called nuts. When you say, oh, those Moors, they came from Africa, they went into Europe in order to civilize and help. No, if your black people left Africa and went to Europe, that's already black. Forget the label. We're not colored. We're not Afro-American. We're not just Black American. We are, again, all these labels that they give us about the Moors and the swarthy people. They put so much labels. And so even when in the text, we have to be careful when we see references to Jewish people being expelled, and it's over 100 years, those were indigenous native black people, and they were scattered and expelled, or worse. So we have to pay attention to the labels. And then they invented new ones, Sephardic, Ashkenaz, Levant, and they keep inventing because they're trying to create a position for their kind when there's no history for the people we see today. Say they could be mimicking as the whites of South Africa or the whites of America or the whites of Europe, or those that label and call themselves Jews or Hebrews, because there is no history. And genetically, that's what I've been following as part of my GTR, my PhD research, at the haplogroup of Europe before the 1800s. Was it a question of it's an E or an R? And that is the ultimate question that's to be decided. I now have about 4 DNA samples in the lab processing at the moment. So gave to Burkina, took some back. So I'm delighted to be a part of this movement, because this is the true Pan-African movement. So where do we go from here? Again, takers as far as France, we know what Africa needs. I want to spend some time to talk about not what they want. Obviously, they want to sustain themselves. It's like a man drowning. It's called the flailing. You're flailing. You're just all over making hands because you want to live and you want to survive. And you know that the West is flailing. They're losing their colonies. They're losing their money. They're losing their income stream. They're losing those resources that would get for free. So we know what they want. We know the agenda is. How can we turn Africa around? And I just wanted to weigh in because, again, I have my own thoughts and I've been very clear on my thoughts. Africa can start by, one, canceling those nasty Berlin Conference agreements. Okay, Africa is for Africans, and I'd go so far as Africa is for Black Africans. Africa is for Africans, and it includes the 6th region because we have everybody in the 6th region. So we need to cancel those agreements, and we need to ensure, as point number 2, that Africa remains in African hands. Point 3, we need to remove the barriers that prevent free movement of goods, of services, of labor, and capital. These are the resources and factors of production. We need to remove those barriers. As a Nigerian, why do I need a visa to go to Central African Republic? We have some countries and they have their rules. We need to remove those barriers. Take a feather from the cap of the Europeans, where there's free movement of services, free movement of goods, free movement of people without the border restrictions. We also need to make more things in Africa. We need to produce and make things enough of. Point number 1 was about stopping the extraction. So if we stop the extraction, we develop markets and product and distribution lines where we are supplying the world. We're no longer importing the finished products. Thank you very much. And if we can't afford it, they just give you a loan. Those days are over. Let's start making t-shirts, making chocolate, making things here rather than shipping out the cotton, shipping out the cocoa, shipping out everything. Let's start making more things here. And also, we need to limit the terms of some of our nice leaders. No more than 2 terms. No more than two terms. 2 terms, that's it. 2 terms. That's constitutional. You cannot be in office forever because that's some stooge. And that's where you get the corruption, the stooges that do the role and play the part of keeping the continent down and backward. So limit terms and introduce your own resource gold-backed currency. It's time to launch, call it the African pound. It's time to have a federal currency where if you buy something, you have to buy in that currency, and that currency is backed by gold. And the industries, we don't have to develop all the industries, but use the modern techniques to value the resources. Like the reports are called the NI 43101, which is the Canadian standard. And in Australia, I think it's referred to as the JORC, the JORC reports. They don't value the mines properly. A lot of people don't have money for that, but they refuse to use the international standards because they want to keep those assets off the books. So use international standards. But we don't have, this is the last point when I talk about money. We can have our own money. We know the world is moving towards a digitization. I think it's one way that they want to get rid of the debt somehow and find a way to get rid of their debts, but it's moving towards tokenization. But don't forget this whole point that you have abundant of resources, but you're not allowed to move those resources onto the global market. Your banks are undercapitalized. Your banks are small. So by connecting the resources using the current instruments and methodology like the 43101s and the JORC reports, you're able now to enter the international capital markets and to trade, to have your assets put, to have your currency strengthened, whether it be a gold back or a weighted average, resource back currency, and have it, someone will have to buy something in Tanzania, buy something in Kenya, they can pay using that currency, and forces, that foreign direct investment. Those are some of my thoughts. I wanted to hear some of your thoughts and how you may add to it. And, again, France, we know what the agenda is, recolonization. more extraction from Africa. But how do you see us moving Africa forward? Again, just throwing it out there.
We have to understand, why are we backward? Why are we not progressing as a continent? And for me, according to the knowledge I know, the reason why we are not progressing as a continent first is that the colonialists succeeded in making us weak in mind. He made us think that we cannot do anything for ourselves. He make us think and believe, for us to make it, as for African to make it, he must move outside Africa and go where the greener pastures are, outside the continent. You see, now that's the problem. He succeeded in understanding, in making us know that we don't have anything of value for ourselves, even our identity. You see, even our identity, I mean, all of everything that can define a person as an African. The language. Look currently at the architecture of Africa. You cannot find any structure that is being praised to be in an African design. You see, look at the way we are dressing. You see, because even we the people, we are recycling the clothes that are being worn in Europe and US. We call them mitumba. You see, the second-hand clothes, they dump them here to kill the textile industry of Africa. And now the steps that we must follow, or rather the strategy we must use as a continent, or rather as Africans, first is by knowing that we can make it, having the mind shift of we can make it regardless of what we have, regardless of what we own as a continent. We must be proud of what we have first, our thinking, our identity, and everything that we have. Secondly, and this has been a song, and I'll repeat again, because there's no way we are going to succeed, or rather we are going to move forward without uniting as a continent. Dr. Prince Wilton and Mr. Andrew and my other brother who is there as the producer, just imagine one continent, like one Africa, under one army, under one president, under one economy, under one language, and under one belief and voice. You see, if we can do that, we are much, much stronger than 54 presidents, than 54 currencies, than 54 languages. We are much stronger than 54 identities. Because there's no way we'll be having such summits, then one country, or rather a section of countries from now Africa, are the one being represented, and that is being called the African Forward Summit. There's no way we are going to do it while some countries like South Africa, a lot of other countries are not involved. There's no way we are going to call it a forward, and there's no way we are going to call it development for the continent. Yet we only have 11, or rather even 8 to 11 countries are in attendance. There's no way we are going to call it progress and moving forward as a continent. Thirdly, this issue of rejecting our own people, xenophobia, having the fear of Africa, a fellow African will deny you a right to trade, will deny you a right to work in Uganda, that Mr. Andrew should not come in Kenya and have a meal in Kenya, or rather Mr. Andrew should not come in Kenya and do business in Kenya because he's a Ugandan. There's no way Africa is going to move forward if we have that mentality. those are the things that we should look into if we want Africa to move forward. And the last and the most important thing is rejecting our culture, and that I will connect it with the second point that I said, understanding our identity. I'm surprised that in the continent of Africa, polygamy is cursed, but homosexuality is allowed. You see, those are the things that are pulling us behind, because we are living in denial. That's not what we are, but we are living it because we want to copace with the rest of the world. We want to go hand in hand with Europe. We want to go hand in hand with Western culture. What they are doing, we want us to do. For me, I love the Poland where you are coming from, Mr. Prince, because you guys understand what history is, understand what the Polish culture is, and that's why currently the only country globally that is both politically and economically strong, if I can I can weigh it together with El Salvador, is Poland, because Poland understands the identity of a Polish people, what it takes to be a Polish. And if Africa will do that as a continent, if Africans will be proud of that as the people, will be a step ahead. Will be a step ahead, because out of our culture is where we'll be earning something, an income from it. Out of our culture we'll be having our identity, and out of our culture we will not be manipulated, because this is what we should be doing. Currently, look at the state, the diplomatic state of Kenya. Kenya is being manipulated diplomatically. I don't know if we can stand and argue diplomatically with Tanzania, diplomatically with South Africa, diplomatically with Burkina Faso, because we are there as a puppet. We are being used to fuel wars in our neighboring countries. You see, and that's how that comes from us not having our identity as a country, as a continent, and as the people. If we will have identity as the people, I believe Africa will be in a better hand, and I believe Africa will start moving forward and going for a better place. I want to see Africa whereby Africa is organizing, or rather Africa is talking business with Europe, not as Kenya talking business with France. I want Africa to be bargaining relationship, to be bargaining treaties with the America, not as Kenya bargaining treaty with the US. You see, and that's how we are being ruled, divide and rule, because we are not as a whole. And as much as we are being divided, we will forever be ruled, and we will never see development that we call development to be at a place where the world can come and consult that how can we solve this crisis economically, how can we solve this crisis in health, how can we solve this crisis politically, Kenya, how can we Africa, how can we stop the wars, how can we stop killing each other? That's what I want, because if we are going on those tables, as Uganda going there, as Kenya going there, as Ghana going there, because Ghana, if they go there, they will be bargaining about cocoa. As Kenya, as a country, if you go there, we'll be bargaining about the oil that we just recently discovered that is in our country. As Uganda, will be going there trying to negotiate how can we be exporting more bananas, how can we be doing such and such with your country. And if that will be followed, and if that will be continuing to happen, if that will continue to happen, as a continent, we are at a bad state, and we will never see development. As I finish, currently, the GDP of maybe Paris, I was just reading the statistics, is even beyond the GDP of our country, Kenya. And how can that now be a fair summit now, or rather a fair discussion between Kenya and France. You see, because this the person, or rather Macron, is here just to make something from us. It's not a fair summit at all. It's not fair because we are the one allowing it to happen.
And I just wanted to welcome with Andrew. And my point is that, look, I take your points on board fully. And if you look at the GDP, certainly of Kenya, it's, look, I look at the numbers, but, we know G7 exists for a region. And now they say G8, because you must include Russia. The Russian economy has eclipsed many others. But 5 of the G7 countries are based in Europe. Well, you look at the Brexit, forget the Brexit, because, people don't realize that the 2009 Treaty of Lisbon established a common Europe, and then Brexit happened after 2009. So there is some legal wrangling here between, well, can the UK truly and fully exit because of the ratification of that treaty? That treaty established a common monster, common thing, common animal, to call it a monster, but a separate autonomous unit, just like a company is separate from its constituent members. So it is that the EU even was awarded the Nobel Prize. I mean, it got an award because it was a separate entity. So whether the European Union, how does that go when you have delegated and transferred a lot of your rights to that entity, and then now you Brexit, later. But look at it: UK, France, Italy, Germany, Spain. I mean, clearly you have the 5, the big ones, and then on the other non-EU we have the USA and Japan. So we have the group of 7, the 7 largest economies, and Europe benefited from Africa. Each of those European nations had their teeth into Africa, sucking the blood of Africa, and US benefited as well. Japan now, it could be indirectly, directly. We all know that, there's been, international trade. In this international village, they're all connected. But notice that your money starts in Japan first. Your money starts in Japan and moves westward as far as the journey of money every day. The capital markets wake up, we have Tokyo, then moves over to Hong Kong, and we include Beijing, but certainly it's Hong Kong, China. Then it moves again to London, and then in New York. And then after the end of the day, or before the end of the day, it gets sort of back officed and allocated to the Caribbean, to the offshore territories, which have been serving for decades. So the movement of money from the east going west. And so you ask yourself, the reason Japan doesn't have a direct, as far as I know, a direct stranglehold over Africa or footprint, that there were no Japanese colonizers that I'm aware of, but there is still that contractual obligations between and amongst these group of 7, group of 8, G7, G8. Just wanted to point that out, but pretty much all of them have had their hooks into Africa from the Berlin Conference, and even cemented in World War II. It's touted as a victory with Churchill and everyone celebrating, but that was another opportunity for them to further carve up Africa, because the Jews got their state. The Rothschild banking system was well underway. We're talking about countries that it fell in terms of their sovereign rights, and then the rise of the whole G7 took off from the 1940s. But turn over to Andrew.
I think that Africa, to develop, we first need to have a honest conversation amongst ourselves. Take an example in the East African community now. You find that one President, William Ruto, is having a separate conversation with the President of France, Macron, but the decisions they are making are affecting the entire region. You see that point, my elder? That you are having a conversation with a French President Macron or America Trump or Russia. However, the implications affect the entire region. So there is no harmonization, there is no unity. Everybody is negotiating on their behalf, but the repercussions are shared across the region. That is something that is happening also in the Sahel region. That's why Macron is telling you that, oh, if Niger, Burkina Faso, and Mali are not willing to cooperate with France, it's okay. As long as the rest of the countries in the Sahel, some of them are still cooperating with us. But your cooperation also affects your neighbors. So that is a challenge that Africa needs to handle. If we had a very active African Union, this would be their job. In fact, these deliberations will be held at the African Union level. So that if you're president of France and you want to deal with any leader in Africa, those conversations would be held under the supervision of African Union, because that African Union is a body that unites all of us as Africa. And so the decision you're going to take in your country, neighboring Niger, is going to affect the other neighbor. But also there are people, like now, you'll find Ugandans in Kenya. So you think you have made a decision for Kenya, but actually there are other citizens in your country who may not agree with what you are doing. So that's the first problem. But the other issue I wanted to address as my last submission, my elder, is what Macron said. But also, Kenya, William Ruto, hosting Africa's richest man, Dangote, in Kenya, and unveiling a regional project, oil exploration. Dangote holds the view that Africa must be self-reliant. We must produce our own oil in our own countries, supervise them, handle them. Now, you host such a man who actually has agreed to fund it. Oil refinery in East Africa, either put it at the port of Mombasa or in Tanga in Tanzania. He has accepted. Then as he exits, you now bring Macron from France, whose ideology is that Africa must never produce anything for itself. Now you see the contradiction, my elder. Dangote wants a self-reliant Africa and he's sponsoring it. France wants a colonized Africa. He wants to continue colonizing us. So Macron saw what Dangote had come to preach in East Africa. So he realized that Africa was going to become independent. They will no longer need Total. Total has been in East Africa and Africa for centuries. Even in Uganda, when President Museveni wanted to start the construction of this pipeline, what they call EACOP, East African pipeline, from Uganda to Tanzania to Kenya and so on, Total came and advised them that no, do not build this because it will not give you profit. Let us continue holding on for you. Total wants to hold on the production of oil in Uganda and the East African region. President Museveni just insisted that we must do it. So you see, Total with Macron from France, who doesn't want East Africa to produce its own oil? Dangote comes to say, we can do it. As he's exiting, the same William Ruto, who has hosted Dangote, is now hosting Macron, who is opposing the idea of a self-reliant Africa.
I would say that Dangote has gotten richer because of the whole situation with the Strait of Hormuz. And, this plays into politics. Look, he is touted as, yes, the Africa's richest man. We know that people are supportive, but politics at a high level, businesses at a high level, they merge. And so one has to say, well, whose side? I don't know about loyalties. I don't know enough about his politics. But with France, they've gotten enough. They have taken trillions and trillions per year out of Africa. And this party is ending. From the west to the east, it's ending. And we need to see it end and Africa flourish. How can you have Central African Republic, $500 per person per year? How can you have Burkina Faso, $2,000 per year? These are average income. These are incomes that people make in an hour, in one day, and yet we have $2,000 a year in the case of Burkina and $500 in the case of Central. Both are French-speaking colonies. And we have to stick a pin and realize that it's we, them, the Europeans, or black, they made the rules. They set the rules. We have to respect and understand that. And if we don't understand this, we lose out. We're chasing the boogeyman, which never existed because it's Europe that set the stage and the rules. So, my gentlemen, I would say that we're coming up close to the hour. And I love this Pan-African conversations. We need to have another discourse and look at how we could move Africa forward. We've had these conversations with
As I end my presentation, I just wanted you to look and analyze what the mindset of Ruto is, that you invite Africa's richest man, whose mindset is a self-reliant Africa, then as he exits, now you bring in a Macron, whose mindset is that Africa must remain colonized. It's a total contradiction. I want to leave it at that. Now, let me end up with South African xenophobia. My brother David from Kenya talked about it. There's another problem. When South Africa was having problems in 1994, up to 1994, when they were having a apartheid era, it is other African brothers that came to their rescue. They wouldn't have managed those whites alone, the white Boers in South Africa. They wouldn't have managed them alone. Other people helped them, including Uganda and Algeria and Libya. They all helped them. After sorting their house now, they are saying, you people who helped us, you go back to your countries. But they are saying that, as I speak, I'm in Kampala. Even now, the phone I'm using to communicate to you, the network, the SIM card, is MTN. MTN is from South Africa. MTN is the biggest network in Uganda from South Africa. MTN is the biggest network in Rwanda from South Africa. MTN is the biggest network in DRC Congo from South Africa. MTN is the biggest network in Burundi from South Africa. Now, every day you extract billions of money from your other brothers in other countries. However, in your country, you are chasing a street sweeper, a wheelbarrow pusher in your country, saying you are taking our jobs. You don't understand. My disappointment is that Ramaphosa, who understands this, and his government are quiet. Ramaphosa understands. Ramaphosa has companies here in Uganda. Ramaphosa's company is here in Uganda. They are in oil extraction. They are in gold extraction. They are in energy. They are in manufacture of alcohol, beer. They are here in Uganda, in East Africa. However, back home, they are saying, if you're not a South African, please pack and go.
And with all this businesses that are concentrated in South Africa, they're not really and truly Black-owned businesses, because 80% of the wealth, 80% of land and resources in South Africa are held by a minority to this day, and that is a leftover from the apartheid regime. So they have built up South Africa for extraction too, for companies, big companies that are doing business, have investors and shareholders. But the white South Africa, for God knows whatever reason, we know it's not history. We know that the Boers were and Dutch were Black people, but we have a part of these 8%, 10% of the population controlling 80% or more. And not just the wealth of South Africa, but as you rightfully put, Burundi and Rwanda and Uganda, all these countries that are being funneling and channeling money back into South Africa and in the hands of a minority of persons and not the majority. So these conversations we need, that's why we need the history. Once we highlight the history and we know how those people got there, and then the next question is, but how did you get what you have, and why are you allowed to keep what you have? Because it's all stolen treasures from Blacks. This is something, you see, the whole history is important. Everything underpins history, from the white Jesus on the wall to every image we put up and project as idols and falsities. And it's there to control, to say, you're not worth anything. You haven't done anything. You're beating some drums. You're living in trees. We helped you. We took you from your loincloth, basic squalor, and we elevated you to the planet. And that's the false narrative. So we have to use history. And when we use history, and every child, you see, Macron can have as many conferences he wants. He can have a whole 100 set of conferences. But when the young people stand up in the audience and say, but wasn't Napoleon Black? This is what I'm saying to the Africans and the French speaking. Napoleon has the same haplogroup as me, as an E. He was a Black man. Isn't Louis XVI Black? Your history and historians and historical leaders were Black. So who are you to come to us to tell us anything when you don't even know your history yourselves? In fact, you have done nothing for us. It's fraud, because when you're doing a contract, you're going to give a consideration. So basically, you're going to say, I come to you because I'm giving you this, and then you're going to give me that. Well, if you never did this, you never got this, you were never here, then what about the middle? It's a fraud, because it's the sons and daughters who left Africa to build this up. So if we establish the point that the sons and daughters of Africa came to build this, so we are dealing with ourselves, and we have an imposter, visitor, cabbage baby in the middle, telling lies. We need to know that. We need to understand the history. The history underpins, because if we don't have the history, we will keep chasing the boogeyman, the colonizers. We'll be giving away what is rightfully ours. So let's shut the narrative. Let's try, because he can have as many conferences he wants. If the knowledge goes out there, the young people will start to heckle, and they rightfully shouldn't be heckling. They should be heckling him and saying, boo, what are you talking about? You call yourself a Pan-Africanist and you don't even know what it is. You don't even know who your ancestors are. You don't know even where you came from, because France, as we know it, looked like this. This was basically France. So France is looking like this, and you come to us. What are you selling? What are you telling? Why should we give you anything? You should be happy for what you got and leave town. Take the next flight and just leave town. So with that, I leave it as that. We've come to the hour. Thank you very much for David. Thank you very much, Andrew, for your contributions. This concludes GTR episode 23. We're having Pan-African friendly conversations centering around the summit that is in Kenya. And yes, and thank you very much. I think, David, you said you wanted to have closing thoughts.
I'm really waiting for the Africa Day summit that will be happening here in Kenya from 23rd of this month, 25th of this month. I've liked the conversation, Doctor, and thank you so much for for this opportunity, because it's keeping me on board, reading, always being updated about history and both the current situation and the past events, for me to be knowledgeable. Now currently I'm having a diverse knowledge concerning the garbage babies, the Jewish roots in the continent and everything, and I really appreciate you for that. And thank you so much also for letting me meet Mr. Andrew. I believe we'll be meeting soon.
High Prince McDonald, that our function is on 29th of August 2026 at the Speaker Resort Munyonyo. And David, I'm also inviting you. There is every year we organize what they call Pan-African Pyramid Group Awards. We award Pan-Africanists across the globe. So who knows, High Prince Chief, for the work he's doing, he could end up having an award in Kampala this August, you know.
Look forward to it. Real Pan-Africanist, real.
Yeah, so I am looking forward to meeting you guys on 29th of August at Speaker Resort Communion in Kampala. David, for you, you can just cross over in 2 hours. You'll be in Kampala. It's not a problem for you, because even me, I'm just going to cross over.
So I appreciate it. Thank you, gentlemen. That's a wrap. We're going to go, but thank you again. This is episode 23, Pan-African Conversations and light of the French Summit in Kenya. Thank you.